everybody's doing that.
Correct.
Right, in multifamily. So it wasn't a unique strategy. So we had
sure.
a little trouble raising capital. We had a few capital sources, which were great sources, but we needed a few more.
Yeah.
And then we just couldn't make numbers work.
It's always important to have multiple capital sources.
Yes.
You can't rely on just one or two or three. Here in Charlotte, if you go out west, the Walmart, there's a table normally out there on a Saturday and Sunday that gives free government phones. And I respect everybody, but I don't know how you can become homeless right now. I'm going through a custody battle now, and I've noticed that in the court system is that they're so easy to take away fathers. But that's the biggest issue in families right now is there's no stability. There's no father like you where you're training your kids to be masculine men. Welcome to the Chris Salerno Show, your go-to for real estate, business, health, and family insight. I'm Chris Salerno, CEO of QC Capital. Each episode, we explore the latest trends and expert advice from industry leaders. Whether you're an investor, entrepreneur, or seeking balance, this show provides an inspiration you need. Join us and elevate your game on the Chris Salerno Show. Welcome to the Chris Salerno Show. I'm your host, Chris Salerno. I have a good friend. His name's Chris with a K on our show. I've known him for about 5 to 6 years, way back when we first actually, and I actually started QC Capital Group. So I'm very excited to have him on. He's a wealth of knowledge in the self-storage space, and we're going to talk about everything self-storage and much more. Chris, thanks so much for joining us.
Chris, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I love it. I love it. Let's dive into your background. What are you currently working on given the current market environment? And before that, how'd you get to where you're at?
Yeah, you know what? By accident.
Okay.
So nobody really gets into self-storage investing on purpose for the most part, right?
Yeah.
We the natural progression is you start maybe in single-family homes, you rent out your home, you go buy another one, rinse and repeat, something like that.
That's right.
And then you say, I'm going to scale up, get 10 units or whatever, and then you say, I'm going to get into bigger multifamily. And that's kind of a natural progression. I actually went to school, graduated. We could talk about that a little bit more. I have a little bit of a different opinion on school and education, but went to school, learned a few things, got out, worked for a multifamily acquisition company. We couldn't make numbers work on certain deals, and it just was kind of going nowhere, kind of spinning our wheels a little bit.
What year was that?
That was 2016, 2017. So
and that was the boom. So I got in 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
And so that was when everyone was still, numbers were still creeping up very high.
They were creeping up. Interest rates are going up a little bit, not like they are today as of this recording. But they were moving in that general direction.
Yeah.
So you did see a bid-ask, spread between buyers and sellers at the time.
Yeah.
And then our strategy too was a little bit, I would say, weak.
Okay.
And I don't mean that like in a mean way. It just was.
Yeah.
We're doing like a core plus, and what that means is if you're gonna do a value add or whatever, maybe for the audience, you're gonna go buy an apartment or a home. You're gonna buy a home, you're gonna flip it or rent it out. So you go in there, you put new carpet, new paint. New countertops. Fix it up like you see on TV or whatever. In multifamily, it's the same idea. New carpet, new paint, whatever.
Just more units and bigger.
Exactly. And so everybody's doing that.
Correct.
Right, in multifamily. So it wasn't a unique strategy. So we had a little trouble raising capital. We had a few capital sources, which were great sources, but we needed a few more.
Yeah.
And then we just couldn't make numbers work.
It's always important to have multiple capital sources.
Yes.
You can't rely on just one or two or three. Yeah, because at the end of the day, things happen in life. And especially in this market environment that we're in with this interest rate hike, I know very, very wealthy individuals that are cash poor right now.
Yes.
They just have no cash because all their deals are not producing cash. They're just cash poor.
Yeah.
So they have nothing to invest in.
100%.
And so it's super important to make sure you have a very large, diverse investor base where you're not just relying on a couple people.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So we had literally I think 5 main investors.
All right.
Now they were wealthy, but just 5. And so you need like 50,
or more.
Right? Yeah. 5. So anyway, we pivoted to storage. The guys I worked for, they owned a few, 3 facilities at the time, something like that. They were smaller. And everybody we talked to help us raise capital for multifamily, they really liked the storage story. So one of the owners said, hey, let's do something in storage. So we started a fund. Just is basically a big bucket of capital you raise from outside sources.
That's right.
You take that capital to go buy and fix up self-storage. So I learned about the business from the ground up, and that's how I got into self-storage and all that. So that was 2016, 2017, something like that. Now, fast forward, with the partners I have now, we have acquired since 2021 about, call it $120 million of storage.
Love that.
Like 6,000, I don't remember the number of units, 6,000 or something like that units. We're doing we've completed a couple of expansions. So meaning you buy a property, it's got, call it 300 units or 400 units, you're going to add on some more. Maybe another 200 or 300 units or whatever. So we've done that a couple of times. So we're in asset management mode right now.
There you go.
Acquisitions is a little bit tough. You still have with rates where they are and pricing.
Yeah.
It's tough right now. So we're in asset management mode, which things are going in the right direction. Surprisingly, usually there's an ebb and flow to storage use, just like multifamily.
Yeah.
You have everybody move out in the summer and all that.
Oh, yeah.
And storage is kept very similar. But over the winter months, we actually had occupancies creep up everywhere across our entire portfolio.
Oh, that's
So we're
perfect.
very thankful for that. I know a lot of people who are having a hard time right now. I've
most
talked to some
definitely.
operators who are having a hard time. But then all of us who do chat amongst each other, we're saying, hey, we're seeing the same thing where we're at. So that's good. You know, we want
you
to
have
see
to have
that.
those type of conversations, especially in the multifamily space, and we're heavily in car washes, and we're doing it with that type of conversation in the car wash space. And it's super important. No matter what industry you're in, you have those conversations with other owners and operators or other leaders in the industry to see what are you looking for, or what are you seeing in the market, what's impacting you guys. This is what's impacting us. This is what we're doing, because it's super important to share that information to everyone win at the end of the day, and that's super important.
That's why we had the lunch with a couple of guys 2 weeks ago or whenever it was last week. And got together and just talked about what we're seeing, what's going on. One guy's just a pure developer. The other guy's a pure acquisitions guy. They both are obviously very well off. They own their own stuff, which is great.
And that's good to have at the table because you can understand from labor, material costs, land costs, rezoning if need be from that guy. Then the other guys, what are you looking at, from acquisitions? So it's very, very helpful to get that at the table.
Yeah. So we encourage each other, share stories and kind of trade ideas and all that kind of stuff. And you have one other guy who does smaller stuff, maybe more rural markets. So it's interesting to see that perspective as well.
And that's something, when you drive up to Asheville in the middle of nowhere, you see a storage facility.
It's so dumb. Yeah.
And I scratch my head. I'm like, who is using all those damn units?
Yeah.
There's nothing out here. People have a lot of land. They're just keeping stuff on their land, I would assume.
Yeah.
But, when it comes to stuff like that, can those be as profitable as, in the city?
Yeah.
How does that, work with
It can be if you buy at the right basis, and that's obviously across the board, but especially in those markets, you buy at the right basis, and then there's got to be some upside in the rents or the management. Typically, let's say it's like a first-generation owner. He just built them in the 80s or whatever.
Yeah.
And
the phone number's on a banner.
Exactly.
Call in for rent.
It's Jim's Pack and Stack. And the phone number's on a banner on the fence.
Yep.
And he
call
comes
or text.
Exactly. And so that's how that you can say, okay, we're going to implement a website that can actually take
They can do all that
They
from
can rent
one.
online. I don't have to meet them
Direct
at the facility.
deposit. Yep.
Exactly. All that stuff. Take credit cards, no more cash. That's a little bit of a tough one to deal with, but no more cash, because if you're trying to manage something like that, it's a little bit
It's so
unruly.
hard. Yeah. Plus,
Exactly.
even with a manager, and we are not taking any cash at any of our car washes because, one, it's not that we don't trust our on-site managers. We trust them fully to operate them. However, we just don't want that temptation.
Dude,
And plus, we don't want someone knowing, hey, there's cash on site and something happened to our on-site managers on a safety reasons.
Yeah.
And then 3, it's just easier for our accounting team.
Yeah.
With everything by the books that comes in, that they can look at it. Hey, it is what it is.
Exactly.
You can see how many cars came through. You can see what people paid. There's no fluctuating with numbers.
I don't even carry any cash.
I don't either.
I don't know.
And I get, the only time I do is sometimes when I travel overseas because I want to tip. And I know tipping is not custom on credit cards and things like that. So that's really the only time. But 99% of the time, I do not carry cash.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't know how homeless people make it these days.
Oh, they have Venmo.
I see the
They have
signs with the
Venmo.
Venmo, the Cash App on the sign. Or
It's
whatever.
because here in Charlotte, if you go out west by the Walmart, there's a table normally out there on a Saturday and Sunday that gives free government phones. So I respect everybody, but I don't know how you can become homeless right now.
Wow.
Like there's so much opportunity to not be homeless. Like that is a choice you are making is to be homeless, in my opinion. There's free government phones that you can get on west side of Charlotte at the Walmart. A table there, Saturday and Sunday. Go get your free government phone. Boom. You got a free phone. Government's paying for it. Now you can set up everything you want. You can start streaming TikTok, being a TikTok, influencer if you want. Oh, yeah. You can create your own Venmo account, or however you want to do it. And then boom. Now you can run around. It's crazy.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's interesting, man. Yeah, so I always wonder that. And I see some people with the signs that they have like a little Venmo Cash App or whatever. But yeah, I never carry cash, man. I don't know.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't either.
So we don't take it.
If you're going to try to rob me, look, take my cards. That's fine. I'm just going to, by the time I get home, I'm going to cancel them all anyway.
Right.
Plus, they already have all
matter.
security checks on them. So by the time you charge something, it's going to ding me anyway.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
And it's going to stop it.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah. That's why I only carry cards.
Yeah. That's exactly right. I carry one.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
My driver's license, my card, my concealed carry.
Yeah, you have to have it concealed carry. That's super important. That's the most important given the current market environment.
My son, my 12-year-old and 9-year-old, as a result, they started watching these YouTube videos of police. I wouldn't even call them arrests, just like police incidences.
Oh my God, yeah.
Where the perpetrator gets shot.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know why I'm letting him watch this stuff, but he's like into it, man. It's like interesting to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, the number of people who, number one, I understand it's a high stress environment.
It is.
So
and you have a split second to make decisions, and you don't know if someone is on drugs, meth, like what type of drugs.
Yes.
So I understand it because I have a lot of law enforcement friends. You have a split second to make a decision.
Yes.
And sometimes we make wrong decisions as humans. Like it is what it is. Like we do make wrong decisions, but you have a couple seconds to make a life or death situation.
Yeah, and you can see that play out.
Most definitely.
It's one thing to read it in the papers of what happened and a certain whatever, but when you see the video of it, it brings like the emotion and the tenseness and like
They
don't know.
They did a test with the media. You got to love this media. But they did a test with the media after a couple years ago when all the shootings kept happening, and they invited the media to come to their training facility to actually train in a simulator, and they all failed. Everyone who went in there failed.
Yeah.
Because the pressure, the intensity, the stress, they all failed and killed the wrong person.
Oh yeah. I would fail.
Yeah, it is very, very difficult.
Absolutely.
But yeah, with police these days, you have to be very careful. I was on the east side of Charlotte, and something happened to my son and I. And I'm very happy that I was carrying. Thankfully, I didn't have to do anything with it. But we were approached. It was a very awkward, strange situation. But you have to be very careful these days.
That's nervous. That's a little nerve wracking. I didn't have a situation like that exactly, but we had a kind of like an incident like that, but with my son and myself. And this dude was like walking real close. It was really odd. In the middle of a parking lot at night, went to Harris Teeter, the grocery store. And he was walking real close, like behind me. Yeah. And I'm like, looking like, why do you need to walk? There's the entire parking lot.
Yeah, it's just
like,
awkward.
There. Yeah,
100%.
Very weird.
Most definitely. So at that incident, and I want to touch on this with, the kids, and this is one thing I'm training my son in, and you have a family of 3, and it's super important to be, in my opinion, the leader of the house. You're the man of the house. You have to give that masculinity to them, so they know when they grow up to have wives and kids that they take care of their wives and kids. And with that situation, this one woman approached me. Obviously, she had no cell phone on her. She asked if I was single. I said it doesn't matter. These days, let's just be honest. These days, unless you're one of the famous actors who look amazing, what woman's going to approach you?
Right.
Very rarely. As a man, what woman's going to approach you? Yeah. And so that already was like red flag. And then she asked for my phone number, and I said no. Please go. And I already knew that if I gave her my phone, she just disarmed me basically. Oh no way. Because now I don't have a phone. Yeah. And now someone can easily come up and try to do something. She asked
for your phone?
Yes. To put her number in it.
No.
So that right there is in my head registers she's going to disarm me without me having a phone. Something's going to happen. And thankfully I disarmed it and left, but I got in the car, we drove off, and I told my son, I said, it's very important to watch your surroundings. I purposely threw the door open. Normally I hold the door for people behind me, but I purposely threw it open because I knew there wasn't a hinge on it, and I knew I was counting the seconds until I heard it slam, and it didn't slam. So then I knew someone was following me.
Interesting.
And so I was telling him that it's super important to make sure you look at your surroundings given the current environment. Yeah. And so for you as a father, of 3 children, how important is that, that you distill that with your children, being a very highly successful business owner, and then also, protecting for your family, your kids and your wife?
Oh, 100%, man. So for our family, we do the same thing. My kids know I have guns.
Love that.
We're going to protect our home.
And I think it's super important when you have firearms in your house. And one thing I did was when I first got a new firearm, I showed my son. I obviously disarmed it completely. I showed my son. I said, look, this is a real firearm. This is not a Nerf gun. This is Dad's. You do not touch it. This is real. Yep. And it was completely disarmed, nothing, all of that. But he understood, okay, that's dad's real firearm.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that you have to let your kids know that, because if you don't, they're going to be curious if they come across it. Hopefully they never do, but they come across it, they're going to be curious of what that is.
Oh yeah, man. I remember being a kid, my dad had a pistol in the house too. I knew where he kept it, in the filing cabinet on the top shelf. I couldn't reach it or see into it at the time, but I knew that's where it was. I remember getting like a little stool to go like open the shelf and try to look in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Like I show them the firearms, I let them handle it. Obviously it's unloaded and all that. Show them how to work it. They aren't strong enough being 9 years old and to rack the slide and all that stuff, but they know that's there. I've taken safety classes for myself.
Which you should.
Yeah, to be educated.
You should be comfortable with your firearm.
Outside of the concealed carry class.
Yes,
so like
which is
classes
good.
beyond that.
Yeah.
To make sure I handle things properly.
In that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's the house. Like somebody comes in my house, that's unacceptable.
100%.
Like 100%. That's not even a debate.
Right when you step
I don't
foot,
even know
you're
why I
done.
need to say that. Yeah, that's unacceptable. If I don't know you, you're not welcome in my home, and especially at a weird hour of the night.
Amen to that.
and then on top of that, personal self-defense. So I do jiu-jitsu.
I love that.
So I have put my 2 older boys in it, the 12-year-old and the 9-year-old.
Oh, so you're bringing them in there.
Yeah. So I started roughly 2 years ago. And when I started, I was like, okay, my kids need to do this. My boys. I have 3 boys.
Especially creating masculine men right now. And that's what you are doing.
Yes.
Which I love.
Yeah, it's not acceptable. I said that, they started training.
Yeah.
And, in the very beginning, there's some like, I don't really want to go today. They're excited at first. That's like any sport. Like kids are excited at first, and some days they're tired, they don't want to go. And I don't make them go every single time that they're tired. Maybe they have a little more homework or whatever. It's totally fine. It's good to have a break. But I said, you have to be doing this. You don't have a choice.
You stay consistent with it.
Yeah. If you want to do another sport later on, that's totally fine. Yeah. We can put this aside for a minute. You go do that, but you're going to come back to this.
I love that.
And so my older son, he's 12. So he's going through like, the physical changes in puberty and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I can see the confidence in him.
You see
if we go somewhere, we simulated one time, we were just messing around, but he's like, Dad, pretend you're going to kidnap me. We're in a parking garage. This whole family's there. So
which is good.
I was like, okay. So I grabbed him, tried to pick him up and go. And you would be surprised at the fight he was 11 at the time.
Yeah.
A fight in the 11-year-old. And he actually punched me in the face. I wasn't expecting that. I knocked my glasses off. I wasn't doing anything mean to him, whatever. He's like, pretend you're going to put me in the trunk. I'm like, okay. So we did that.
Yeah.
And I was surprised by his ability to kind of make problems for me.
And
obviously, I wasn't going 100%.
That's what you have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't
cause a struggle.
Exactly. So I know like if we go somewhere, now they've been training for about almost 2 years, about the same length as me, that he can handle himself. So at school, no fights or anything like that, but he has gotten into a couple like quote unquote wrestling matches with some of the other kids because they all know he does jujitsu. So they kind of, when you're kids, you're like, oh yeah, let's see if you can do it. I'm bigger than you. So they did that. Like some kid had a birthday party, so they were in a room and they started wrestling around. They got Brandon. He said, you go with whoever, whatever. And like he double-legged him, put him on the ground, got on top of him, and all the kids were like, oh, because he's actually the smallest in his class.
Oh, I love
One
that.
of the smallest in his class.
Love that.
Yeah, so he's not the biggest
because those are
kid.
normally, you always get picked on.
Exactly.
That's
so
how it was.
you'd expect that. You wouldn't expect that looking at him, right? And so he did that, and then they had some other stuff.
I
here
love
and
that
there.
you're instilling that in the family.
Yes.
Is let's be active. Let's use your body. Be healthy with that. And I'm sure you look phenomenal. I'm sure you're eating healthy throughout the whole family, which is super important.
Yes. Yeah.
Pizza here or there.
Oh, every Friday night for the kids.
I love pizza.
Yeah.
But you're instilling that, and I feel like with those type of combat sports, you're instilling that masculinity, which is unfortunately it's losing in this market environment where we are in. The whole government, everyone is in my opinion trying to take that away from us.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's not like I'm teaching them to go be bullies.
No, you're not. You're teaching them to protect themselves, protect their family, and when they grow up, they're going to do that with their kids. I strongly believe they're going to do that same thing with their kids. But that when they have a wife, they're going to protect that family.
Exactly.
Because that's their job as a man to do so.
Exactly. Yeah, you walk into a room, you feel confident
100%.
because unless someone else is trained in here, like I'm not afraid of anybody in the room.
It brings out a different level of confidence.
Totally different.
And other people feed off that. I'm sure you've been in a room before and someone's just walked in and you can feel their energy walk in. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like you feel that type of energy.
Oh, yeah.
I am sure that training and that practice that you put them through with that and you guys do it all together, they have that level of energy coming in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, man. It's a lot of fun.
I love it.
You'd be surprised. Like it is true, like what they say about jiu-jitsu and all that, like the smaller guy can go against the larger guy if the larger guy is not trained
100%.
and control them and surprise them and overwhelm them. What you see in the old school UFC stuff with Gracie, with Hoist Gracie.
Yeah.
Like that's all legit stuff. And so you walk into a room with, my office is at a CrossFit gym.
Oh, I love
where
that.
the jiu-jitsu school is as
perfect.
well.
It's
the
right
academy.
there.
So it's really interesting. Yeah. So my office is upstairs. Downstairs is the CrossFit gym, and then
So no excuses not working out.
exactly. So I go work out like in the afternoon.
You
We'll do
got to.
jiu-jitsu like earlier in the day. Like we just there yesterday. We'll do like the class is an hour, and then after we'll stick around and roll.
I love that.
And it's mostly guys from the gym, so you're not rolling with like weak guys.
Correct,
You're
yeah.
rolling with like guys who are
built
bigger.
guys.
Yeah, bigger
Yeah.
than me. Yeah. So it's
for sure.
it's much bigger than me. So we have a lot of fun in there. We're not
Love
trying to
that.
kill each other. We're trying to learn and get better. So we have a lot of fun. We know each
Love
other
that.
and all that. So yeah, we train, 3 times a week, 4 times a week. I'll go tonight. They do no-gi on Thursday nights, which is basically you wear like a, they call it a kimono or whatever. You wear that kind of like a karate suit.
Yeah.
What looks like that's
Oh,
gi.
yeah.
You have the no-gi. That's like a t-shirt and shorts basically.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we do that as more wrestling with that. So,
There you go.
dude. It's fun.
I love it.
Have you done it before?
So I wrestled in high school.
Yeah.
I was a runner-up state champ first year ever wrestled.
Dude.
I went 26-5, and the only reason why I lost twice and I got disqualified 3 times because I threw the kid over my shoulder too much. So then my coach at the end of that said, "You need to do freestyle because freestyle everything goes." And I was like, "I like the way that sounds."
Yeah.
And so I did freestyle. Really had a good run with it. I really enjoyed it. And it's a great workout too.
Yeah, man.
It was a very, very good workout. But yeah, haven't done anything just recently. I've been very big on really working out with just body weight.
Yeah.
That's something I'm very
actually
big
good.
on. Yeah, different type of pull-ups, different type of lifts that way instead of just bench press, things like that. So I do a lot of calisthenics type of workouts, really focusing on strength.
Dude, if you got back in, or if you went to jiu-jitsu, your wrestling would be a huge advantage in the
Really?
beginning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wrestlers do really well because you understand balance. You understand moving and getting your legs active.
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes we segment our bodies into upper and lower.
Yep.
And you're using both.
Yeah.
And at some point, like the upper belts, they get to a point where they use their hands almost like feet.
Okay.
It's really like surprising like what's
Interesting.
going on here. But yeah, so like you would have a really good baseline
That would be cool.
to get ahead a little faster.
I got to try that out.
You should, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good schools around here.
Yeah.
I think there's one in Charlotte BJJ or something. Anyway, it's a big one.
I know one of our team members, her name's Sarah, her boyfriend was a D2 wrestler, national wrestler. Very, very good. And they do jiu-jitsu together.
Yeah.
So that's something definitely
bet
have to
he's a
try
beast.
out. Oh, yeah. They
Scary.
do all that stuff. It's wild. They are outdoors. And now she's getting into it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So they're definitely a power couple. When it comes, you made a statement early on, and I'm excited to dive into this about school, college.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your opinion on it.
Yeah, I have so if you look at, well, at least from what I see online, everybody kind of, just to put it this way, they kind of poo-poo education, college, going to university. It's a waste of time. Everybody from like Ben Shapiro to people on the left,
Yep.
it doesn't matter. They kind of poo-poo it a little bit. And I don't want to mischaracterize anything. So that's just like snippets I've seen.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
I think if you go, they're right if you do it. College is a waste of time if you do it the wrong way.
Yep.
There's a right way and a wrong way to do it. You could say real estate investing is a waste of time if you do it the wrong way.
Yeah. Anything's a waste of time if you do it the
Jiu-jitsu is a
wrong
waste
way.
of time if
Correct.
you do it the wrong way.
Correct.
So if you go to, I went to university when I was older. So I was in my mid-30s.
Okay, that's
going
different.
to get my undergrad.
So not right out of high school.
Not out of high school.
Okay.
Out of high school, I was a loser in high school. Gary Vee talks about his GPA and he shows his transcript.
Yeah.
I would beat Gary Vee.
Really?
Yeah, I graduated at the bottom. I was like 327 out of 333 students.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was at the bottom of the barrel.
I'm in the same boat as you when it comes to that.
Sweet.
I remember there's so many times I got zeros and Fs on my paperwork because I cheated.
Yeah.
And then eventually I went to the teacher and I told the teacher, I said, it's not cheating, it's leverage. I'm leveraging someone that's smarter than me to get this work done. And she's like,
you
no,
go.
you're cheating. I'm like, no, do you do your own taxes? And she says, no. I said, well, you're leveraging someone else to do your taxes.
Right.
So I'm leveraging someone else in this class smarter. And I figured at the time, and I was in special reading classes. I actually had teachers reading me tests and reading me stuff. Yeah, because they called me dyslexic all throughout school, all special reading classes. Oh yeah, and I was in some of the classes with the special need kids because of these special reading.
Are you serious?
100%, 100%. And
so that's why they put you down for the special needs when you guys
for
went to
Disney World. I know, right? They got me on that.
That's hilarious.
And still to this day, reading I can be very terrible at if it's not something I'm interested in.
Okay.
And I figured that out. Or right when I got out, I dropped out of college, and then I figured it out that I have to be highly interested in it. Now, if you give me a business book, anything about mergers and acquisitions, anything about investing, I will read it front to cover one whole night.
Yeah.
Because I am truly passionate about it, and I'm interested in it.
You're locked in.
I'm not interested in 1900s history. I respect everyone in the 1900s, everything they've done.
Right.
We're in a different era now.
Right.
We got Elon Musk creating brain chips that you can control your computer with your brain.
Yeah.
So it's like right now, my main focus is what is currently present that is going to help for the future.
Yeah.
And that's what I get excited about. So I can read anything front to back right now, and I love it.
Yeah.
But I realized that is through all of schooling, I did not care about anything they were teaching me because I knew it was irrelevant for what I wanted to do.
That's interesting, man. Yeah. So, I didn't know that.
Yep.
That's really interesting, actually. So bottom of the barrel. Time went by. I actually worked so I graduated barely by the skin of my teeth. My life changed at that point in time. I was just a loser.
Yeah.
Long story short. My mom was praying for me.
Were you partying, drinking,
all that stuff?
So drinking,
dude, all that stuff. Yeah, which it's so funny because I got a ticket. I got pulled over from California originally, and so
sorry.
Yes,
I always say there's two good things about California: In-N-Out Burger and weather. Their taxes and politics suck.
And even In-N-Out Burger is sometimes questionable.
I know.
Five Guys is always pretty good too.
Shake Shack
is really good too. Yeah, I'm into smash burgers now.
A smash burger.
I started making those on I have a Blackstone griddle. So I started smashing them down, making those. Those were really good.
Oh, they are.
Anyway, California, man. I don't know. Anyway. So I converted to Christianity afterward. I worked in ministry for 6-7 years or so. Went to Bible school. My friends at the time from high school, they saw me before I left, and I went to the mission field, went to Venezuela, Bolivia, a few other places. They're like, dude, who in the heck are you? Because I wanted to be the king of weed.
Really?
When they legalized marijuana, it was 1997 was when I graduated high school. That year, I think it was that year, 1996 or 7, they legalized medical marijuana for obviously medicinal purposes. Yeah. A friend of mine, this is so funny, actually got into a legit car accident, legit hurt his back or hurt whatever, had legit issues. They had painkillers prescribed for him. He said, hey, can I get medical marijuana? So wrote a prescription. So I drove him down there. We went to San Francisco, went to the place. I don't even know what that's called back then, the dispensary, but it was called whatever. And we went inside, got it's like a Costco card, got our pictures taken, went upstairs, and it was like a Starbucks, but for weed.
It's crazy.
I was tripped out, man, because we went to Berkeley before that, met with one of the, he graduated from the school and was at Berkeley.
Yeah.
Went to go hang out with him, got super high. We were already high driving. He had a jacked up truck that was big tires. I drove a Honda Civic. I'm half Asian, right? We called them rice burners back then with the exhaust and all that stuff. So I'm driving his truck because he's too high to drive.
Oh my!
And so I'm driving over I forgot the name of the bridge. It goes into not the Bay Bridge, but one before that near Vallejo. You go over this bridge and there's it's kind of elevated because it's all hilly. So you make this turn when you get past the bridge heading towards the Bay Area. Yeah. I thought we were going to go flying off the thing and die because I was so high.
Are you serious?
Just gripping the wheel, trying to keep this thing going. Weed isn't that big of a deal, but I was super high.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I could legally carry, I think it was I was his sponsor, quote unquote. If he was too sick to go get weed there, then I would be his guy. And I had my card and I could carry I don't remember what it was. An ounce or not an ounce, I don't know, whatever amount it was in the trunk legally. So my goal, dude, was just to be a pothead. I thought Jesus was coming back in the year 2000 because I grew up going to Christian school.
Wow.
Yeah, so I went to Christian school from kindergarten through 8th grade or 9th grade or whatever. And I grew up thinking that Jesus is coming in the year 2000.
Okay.
And so the world's going to end and literally nothing's worth it. So that's why I didn't go to school. My dad died too when I was 8. So that had an effect. I had no drive.
Yeah.
I had no
You
whatever.
had no father figure.
No father
and
figure.
I say that nicely. You had no father figure. And that is the issue. And I'm going through a custody battle now, and I've noticed that in the court system is that they're so easy to take away fathers. But that's the biggest issue in families right now is there's no stability. There's no father like you where you're training your kids to be masculine men, to make sure they take care of your wife, which is their mother, make sure they take care of their woman as they grow up to become actually a traditional man, which that's what this world needs is a traditional man, someone that works hard, takes care of their family, and it's going away, unfortunately, and the courts are not helping with it at all. And I definitely understand, growing up at such a young age with no father figure, I mean, you have no one to look to. You have no one to talk to.
No guidance.
I'm glad your kids, and I say this nicely, with you not experiencing that, you may be a totally different individual now.
100%.
And I'm glad your kids are able to have you as a father.
I hope you're enjoying today's episode. Just a quick reminder to make sure you never miss an episode. Stay connected with us by following us on social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, TikTok at Chris_Salerno_. And don't forget to subscribe to YouTube to catch the video versions of our episode. You'll get exclusive content, behind-the-scenes footage, and much more. Head over to YouTube, Chris_Salerno now, and hit the subscribe button. Stay tuned because we've got more great content coming right after this.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, absolutely. I think about that because he died when I was 8 from cancer. And so you don't realize the impact when you're 8 years old. It's not possible to understand what happened.
Not at all.
Until you get older. And so I didn't really understand that, obviously, until I was later in life. And so I think about that for my own kids and making sure I'm around for them. So I try to take care of myself and be healthy. I try to do certain things like that. And I think about teaching them what my dad wasn't there to teach me. So you're right. Like if he would have been alive, I'd be a different person. I wouldn't be here. I don't know what I'd be doing.
Yeah, it'd be totally different. My father passed away 2 years ago at 83, and my younger brother, who's in his early 20s, I noticed right when he passed away, I was the father figure now.
Yeah.
I noticed that. He would call me, hey, can you talk to me about suits? Can you talk to me about ties? I have something going on and I said, come over to my house. I have some extra ones that don't fit me, or I have some extra ones that I don't use. You can have those, and I'll teach you how to tie a tie. Things like that. I noticed that very, very quickly. And he's in his early 20s. I couldn't imagine 8 years old, and I'm sure there's definitely other kids that are like that and earlier, but 8 years old, and you're just, hey,
you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And so you don't. I didn't have the guidance, so thank God that he changed my life.
I love that.
At that time. So that put my head on straight, I guess you'd say. The potential was always there. I just never maximized it.
Yeah.
That was the frustration. Like if I wasn't intelligent, that's one thing, right? But my mom knew I was intelligent. She did get remarried and got divorced later on. So I did have a little bit of a father figure for a little bit of time. But the point is that then they both knew I was intelligent. I just didn't care. I didn't apply myself. I had no drive, determination,
And what was
whatever.
that mindset switch that really, because that internal mindset, especially as an entrepreneur, you own a very large company, you're growing it, you don't have someone to say, hey, you need to wake up. You need to get going. You need to do this. You have XYZ you need to do. You have to do it yourself. So what was that mindset switch to really say, okay, I'm done drinking. I'm done doing this bullshit. I'm ready to really take life serious.
It was literally, again, I went from darkness to light. My brain changed.
Just boom.
So yeah, when the Bible talks about that when you convert to Christianity, you believe the things about Jesus, that he died, rose from the dead on the third day, etc. It says you become a new person. You're born again. You hear the John 3:16, everybody holds that up at the stadiums and all that stuff. And you don't really think about that. But that's really what it is, right? God so loved the world,
love that.
so on and so forth. But then it says later on that in a different verse and chapter that you become, the old is gone, the new has come. You become a new person in your mind. I don't know how to explain that otherwise.
Yeah.
But then from there you build on that. So not everybody who's a Christian or says they are really is, right?
Correct.
So you build on that foundation and you get tempted, you get all kinds of things happen thrown at you, et cetera. Life becomes worse typically after you become a believer. It doesn't get better.
Yeah.
The stuff you hear on TV about God's gonna do this and that, he'll do some of that stuff, but that's that's a different
Yeah,
thing.
I think you got to be careful with a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah,
you know,
that's a different-
it's like those coaching programs. They're trying to sell you. You know, one thing, and I grew up going to Christian school, and I go to church, and my son now, and when I have him, he always says, "We're going to church this Sunday, right, Dad?" And I'm like, "Yes, we are."
Yeah.
And he knows it. He loves it. He looks forward to going on Sunday. So I really enjoy that. But I was watching a Joe Rogan podcast, and I don't know if you recently saw it about God, and he was talking. I can't remember who he was talking to, but he said that there was this individual scientific archaeologist that was digging up, and they found a black box, and the black box had black liquid in it. So they actually took this black box to go get the black liquid tested, and it actually came back as 26 or 23 chromosomes of all women, and not any male chromosomes in this blood. And the DNA matched Jesus. And then they went to go look back, and right under where he was crucified on the cross, that's where they were digging. And Joe Rogan said, like, if you are not a believer, like, this is physical evidence that this DNA only has woman.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, you look it up. This DNA only has woman chromosomes in it, no male chromosomes. And obviously, you know, when all that went down, they did not, you know, have sex to have a baby.
He was born a virgin. Yeah,
correct. Yeah. So all of that. Take a look at that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was very shocking. I looked through that a couple times because I was like, wow, that, like, if you're not a believer, I mean, that's physical proof. You know, with our technology, with DNA research, right there. Yeah,
it's always when you hear those kinds of stories. I didn't see that one. He did have another guy on that talked about. He was a scientist and talked about DNA and genetics and other things. That was a very interesting conversation. But Jesus talked about in the scriptures that there was a story he told where this guy, he was a rich man, and this guy named Lazarus, and not the one that Jesus raised from the dead, but another guy, because it's like everybody's called Bill or whatever, just another guy. So the rich man died, the poor man died, the rich man went to hell, the poor man went to heaven. I'm summarizing.
Correct.
And the rich man looked up and could see them in heaven, and he said, and Abraham was there, and he said, Father Abraham, send back Lazarus. Long story short, send back Lazarus to go talk to my family because I have 5 brothers, and I don't want them to come to this place, or 4 brothers. I don't want them to come to this place of torment because I'm in agony day and night. Before that, he'd actually asked Abraham, send Lazarus to dip his finger in some water and cool my tongue. That's how bad it was. And so Abraham said, no, they have the law and the prophets, meaning the scriptures.
Okay.
If they won't believe that, they won't believe if someone rises from the dead. So in other words, we can have, it's interesting to have like those kinds of things.
Yeah.
It's not enough to convert somebody to believe.
Oh, no. Not
You
at
have
all.
to have an actual, like, listen to the truth. So back to your question earlier on of what made the mental change.
Yeah.
This table was set when I converted. It just was a change in my life and my desires. That's what happened. But then you fill it with the wisdom from the scriptures, so like Proverbs.
Love that.
It's a very simple book, 31 chapters. You could read a chapter a day in a month, right? And finish the whole book, 31. And I read that every day. That helped build the foundation from there. And reading and kind of, in a sense, like renewing my mind. You know, I wasn't expecting to talk about all this, but that's just kind of...
No, I love that.
I think it's interesting for the listeners to kind of see that perspective, that I'm not... sure, I do business and all that stuff, and I'm a partner or whatever, but that stuff could all pass away, right?
And you can rebuild that. You
can rebuild
if
it.
you want. Anything.
Exactly. But someday I'll die. And so back to my kids, did I instill in them, obviously, it's important to protect yourself. It's important to make money. It's important to be, not necessarily go to school, but to be educated in some fashion.
Correct.
To have a skill, you know. You don't have to say I have the same path as me. I'm not pushing that on them. I'd be thrilled if they did the same thing. I went to Chapel Hill. I'd be thrilled if they went to Chapel Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Being here
Most
in the Carolinas. But they don't have to do that. But I do hope that I leave behind something for them to, that's eternal, you know, and that belief, that Christian faith. I've told my sons numerous times, you wouldn't have the father you have today if it hadn't been for God and Jesus changing my life.
Yeah,
I would be
I
a
love
different
that.
person. So you should be thankful for at least that. You know, I can't make them believe the same as I believe.
Correct.
I try to push them in that direction, but I can't make anybody do that.
Correct.
So that's what I try to do. But back to the education question. So all that happened.
Wow.
And then I went to later in my so just fast forward, went to ministry. And then in 2007, got into real estate during the recession.
Oh, perfect timing,
2008, 2009. Yeah, great. Thanks, God.
I know, right?
But anyway, got into that and did foreclosure work, which was interesting. But
So that kept you busy, obviously.
kept me busy. I didn't really like it after a while because we were literally like foreclosing
On
people.
everything.
Yeah, I wasn't married and had no kids at the time. So I was showing up with the sheriff's deputy to evict people from their homes. So I would see kids' toys laying there, and it didn't compute.
It didn't register.
I was just there to get a paycheck, do what I need to do, and get the house relisted for sale. I couldn't do that work today. But that's all I knew about real estate because that's all that was happening at the time. We're here in Charlotte right now. The View, one of the condo / apartment buildings in Uptown Charlotte. They call it Uptown here in downtown Charlotte. That was scaffolding flapping in the wind at one point because all the construction workers walked off the job site.
It was built as condos, and I think they still have 6 or 8 condos still there, and they periodically, like maybe once a year, one will come on the market. But then it got sold to a New York apartment complex company, and then now traded hands multiple times, and now Northwood Raven owns it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Northwood Raven owns it.
Okay, yeah, so it's apartments mostly.
Yeah, right now it's all apartments except for those, 1 or 6 or 7 units that are very high rise, very up at the top because I think it's 55 stores or something.
Like that, yeah.
And there's 6 or 7 up there that are still owned by individuals.
Okay.
So they actually have like an HOA association and things like that because of that.
Yeah, I remember when that was going up. You can go downtown to Trade and Tryon. They had an office there. You could walk in and look at like the floor plan. They had a really nice, the original developer.
At that time it was
gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and so.
And the units are huge because they were built as condos essentially.
Yeah.
And it's one of the tallest residential buildings in Charlotte. I think one of the tallest on the East Coast from, I don't know, Virginia to here or something like that. I definitely know the tallest in the Carolinas.
Yeah. It's got a pool up there, like on the whatever
huge.
floor.
Tennis courts, basketball courts. Yeah, it's gorgeous there. I know a couple people that live there.
Yeah, that was literally like scaffolding flapping in the wind. And that was in my mind, that was like the symbolic. It was symbolic of what was happening.
Yeah, you
at
could
that time.
see.
The bottom was completely falling out. You could buy a condo in the Catalyst building, which is by Panther Stadium, or whatever they call it now. They call it something else now, but by the stadium. For like under $200,000, maybe on the 10th floor, not all the way at the top, but under $200,000 at that time. I remember touring them and all that. So, anyway, I didn't like real estate. I wanted to get away from it.
Okay.
And so I said, I'm gonna go get an education. So I went to community college, and I'm gonna try to do something super nerdy Asian math because I'm half Korean, right?
There
and so
you go.
we're all good at math, stereotypically. So that's what I was gonna do was go do some nerdy Asian math stuff.
Love it.
And work for some SaaS company or whatever. Because I just wanted some stability and I wanted to get away from real estate. What I should have done was gone to guys and gals to go raise money and go buy all the apartments in the Catalyst building and all that stuff. Right?
I always say that's when I first got in 2018, 19, I wish someone sat me down and said, Chris, perfect raising capital.
Yes.
That's the number one thing you should do because no matter in good times or bad times, people will always need capital.
Exactly.
And that's what we're doing now is perfecting that capital raising.
Exactly.
And that's what everyone should work on. If they're creating a private equity company or looking to get into real estate or VC, you name it, perfect raising capital.
Exactly. Yeah. So I wish I would have done that. But, when the people you surround yourself is what you become like. So
100%.
all I knew was residential because that's all I was surrounded with.
Yeah.
I had a little curiosity about commercial, but somebody kind of shot that down. And I was like, oh, okay, well, don't worry about that.
I remember that too. So I was a residential broker, and at the time, the company I was operating as a COO, I kept talking to the CEO, and I said, "Look, I want to go own some commercial real estate." And he's like, "Being a landlord, you'll never make money." And I'm thinking in my head, okay, that was shot down, and it was only single family, because that is the pool you're sitting around. That's who's at your table is single family, individuals, and when you start to say, "Hey, what about this?" and people bash that. That's not the right group to hang around.
No.
You need to have that right group to say, hey, let's look more into that. Let's see, what that is. And could that be better and more beneficial for you and for everyone else?
Yeah, no kidding. That's what I found, man, is if you're around people who if you see somebody successful doing something successful and there's no way you can say, well, it can't be duplicated. Because it can be. There's like systems, there's processes. They basically Gary Keller, Keller Williams Real Estate. I love his books, even though it's mostly residential stuff. But the way he thinks and writes,
100%. So I was in Gary Keller's top 25.
Really?
Yeah. So we would travel to Austin, the top 25 in the world with Gary Keller. We would travel to Austin and sit in a very small room and listen to him for 3 to 4 hours.
Dude, that's awesome.
Oh, and the way he thinks, it's just you're gonna go out, you're gonna leave that room. and be like, okay, I need to go like decompress. Like I've just gained so much information. I need to go decompress everything I just learned.
Yeah.
Because you will walk out just in shock.
Yeah.
But yeah, very wealth of knowledge individual. Very.
If there's anybody,
and he's still going strong.
He is. If there's anybody I can interview, it would be him. He'd be like one of my top 3.
Yeah. He's a very high D on the disc.
Yeah.
Very individual. So he's, I would say, very selfish. I mean, I in that top 25, and pardon my French, hopefully no kids are listening, but there's been times I've heard him that he's just like, they're fucking stupid. And I'm thinking in my head, did he just really call them that?
Interesting.
Like, holy cow. Yeah, he's that type of personality.
I wouldn't pick up on that. I listened to his podcast, not Diary. That's the other one. Think Like a CEO.
Okay.
That's his podcast.
Okay.
They have like 4 seasons or something like that.
I think I've heard of it. I know he wrote the book The One Thing, which is a book I always recommend. It's a great book.
Yeah.
But he's a wealth of knowledge. Just on that high D spectrum, he's a little too of a high D. If anyone knows that DISC test, a little too of a high D. And
gotcha.
You know,
D stands for something else. Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So anyway, I'm trying. This is an extremely long answer to your question.
Yeah.
But fast forward, went to community college, did well there, went to university, went to UNC Chapel Hill, got in, and I was in my mid-30s going there. Everybody in undergrad is like in their early 20s or whatever.
They're all young.
So I'm like
so they're looking at you like you're like, you're older.
I didn't have any gray hair, so
there
that kind
you
of
go.
helped a little
That
bit.
helped.
So, and then I had my second child while I was at school. There, he was born at the hospital. So they're really Carolina kids. My oldest obviously was there when he was 2 or whatever, 2, 3, or 4 years old. So I looked around and I said, I can't waste my time here. You know, for obvious reasons. I have
for sure.
Flipping family, and what am I doing? I felt dumb. I felt out of place most of the time. And so I worked really hard and made it worth it. And I did everything I needed to do to make sure I came out with what I needed to come out with, a good job somewhere, doing what I wanted to do. But yeah, I've heard I remember sitting in like the student union building, doing some work or whatever, and hearing another kid at another table saying, yeah, I'm probably gonna go home and live with my parents for a little while and blah, blah, blah.
And you're like, I don't have that option.
Like, not even that, but I'm like, dude, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe you're saying that because you wasted your time here.
You're stupid.
You could have made all kinds of connections,
100%.
networking,
They don't
stuff.
think like that.
Exactly.
That's why I say, I think, in my opinion, college it is the biggest scam there is, and there's multiple reasons why I say that, and I'll touch on that in a second. But if you can get into an Ivy League school, go.
Yeah,
because of the network and the building relationships of an Ivy League school. I don't care if you specialize in communications or like the bottom of the barrel of degrees at that Ivy League school. Still go to that Ivy League school because of the connections and relationships you can build at a Princeton, Harvard, Yale, you name it. The reason why I think college, I think everyone should have an education in the industry that they want to have in. I recommend always going to a 2-year college first to get, a community college. It's cheaper and it's the same thing they're going to do at a 4-year.
Yeah.
And then you go to your 4-year to specialize in whatever you want to specialize in. I think attorneys and doctors, yes, 100% go to college. I think why is it the biggest scam? That's the only loan you cannot file for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
That is a loan that as a student, you can only take up to $10,000. And then anything additional, which we all know, college is more expensive than that. Anything additional, your parents you need a cosigner. Well, who's going to normally cosign? Your parents are going to normally cosign. And so now the government has locked the whole family in, your parents, because they co-signed for you as a student, and most of the time people get out. Right now, the job market's very difficult. So after that 6 months, you're going to have to start paying on your student loans, and that's the only loan you cannot file for bankruptcy, and it's a loan that can garnish your wages if you don't pay. Now the government just locked the whole family in.
Yeah.
To me, that's not right.
Yeah.
But if you're going for certain type of reasons, yes. And I agree with you. You should definitely have that continuing education because you and I are always learning.
Yeah.
You and I are always learning on a daily basis. And when we're not learning, I'm dead, essentially. If I'm not learning, I'm dead.
Right.
Like I will always be learning in this type of industry.
Yeah.
And that's my thought process on all of that.
Oh, absolutely. I think if you're going to go to a bottom of the barrel university, that's not worth the time.
It's not. But all these college kids go there to party. They go there for the wrong reasons. They don't go there for no, they're not. And then they get out and they're like, we have an internship program at QC, and Stephanie oversees the internship program. And after she interviews them, the finalists then come to me, and we have a nice little talk. But we had some interns that they're like, "Yeah, we want $60,000 a year," and I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
Like You're thinking of it in totally wrong direction.
Yeah.
You should want to work for free to gain the knowledge because the knowledge is power to then use that on your resume to go get $120,000 a year.
100%.
But you're an intern, a sophomore or junior in college, and you want $60,000 a year? No.
My first internship while I was in school, I got paid nothing.
Yeah.
But that, ironically, wanting to get away from real estate, it was the only internship I could find. Was at a private equity acquisition multifamily company in Chapel Hill.
Really?
Yeah, Eller Capital Partners. He's still around, Daniel Eller. So he hired me, quote unquote, but I worked for free. So I learned how to underwrite.
I love that.
And I had no idea what I was doing, but he just showed me I'm working for free. So I don't need like super tons of experience. So he showed me how to underwrite. I was underwriting like $160 million or whatever, a big purchase. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I'd never seen that many zeros on a spreadsheet for a purchase price and that many zeros on the spreadsheet for expenses. Yeah. Because it was like 16 locations or something like that. I was like, oh my gosh, how is he paying for all this? With the loan and all that, you need like, $40 or $50 million.
That's crazy.
And then I realized, oh, he's raising money. Oh, he has a fund. What's a fund? Oh, here's the documents. I started reading the documents. Oh, this is how they do it.
And if you didn't work for that position,
I did not know.
And I wouldn't say it's for free because you gain knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
There was some sort of value.
Yeah, right.
But you did not exchange that currency for time for money. You exchanged the currency for time for knowledge. Yeah. And you use that to build a phenomenal portfolio you have today. And I want to dive into it. I definitely want to dive into the RV parks that you guys have.
Yeah.
I know we're enjoying the conversation.
I talk about other things, but no.
But I did the same exact thing in 2018 before I created QC. Is Dan, your business partner? We have the same coach, Joe Fairless. Yeah. And so Dan was local, and I said, Dan, I will drive you wherever you want to drive. I'll be your chauffeur. The only thing is I get to sit in the meetings you go to, and I get to ask you any questions, and I can overhear you when you're on calls and things like that. He says, okay. And we live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Dan's in Columbia. I drove all the way to Columbia just to pick him up. Yeah. To then take him to Atlanta, to take him to all different locations, just so I can gain that knowledge.
Yeah, 100%.
And so you have to exchange that knowledge for your time, I believe, early on. Yeah. So you can build organizations like you've built.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's huge.
Yeah. So had I not done that internship, I wouldn't have been exposed to, private equity and how commercial real estate gets done. And that would have not, obviously, I'd be on a different path. I don't know what I'd be doing. But that started to click. And then I switched my major to economics and then business. And that's where it all really came together. So I interned for him again the next year. He did pay me then. So I interned for him the next year.
There we go. He saw the work ethic and drive.
Yeah, I came back and worked for him again. And did the underwriting and all that stuff. And then it just all came together. And I love economics now. I like that whole, not every aspect of it, but I like that whole, a ton of the concepts in there apply to what we're doing today with
Most
buying
definitely.
properties, interest rates, et cetera, macroeconomics. So yeah, it all came obviously full circle, thankfully. Some of those things work out. But that's, the education that I got there, it was super valuable because I worked for it. I worked my tail off. And a lot of students did. Don't get me wrong.
You're going to retain that information more.
Yeah, it doesn't go away.
No, because you are working without an exchange for a dollar. Yeah. You're not exchanging currency of the United States dollar. So I feel like you're going to retain that information more because that is your exchange.
Yeah, it makes it more valuable 100%. To you.
100%. Yeah. And you're gonna drill that in your head to use it for the future.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, you get more out of it.
100%.
Yeah, if you're paying $50,000 to advertise in Bloomberg or something like that or whatever, like you better get
I better get
worth.
something.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing. If I'm going to give you my time for free, I'm going to be locked in to whatever it is you're doing.
And you're going to be the hardest working person
Exactly.
in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't do well at jobs. That's for that reason.
Yeah.
I don't do well at W-2 type jobs.
Yeah, 9 to 5, come sit,
I
clock
get like
in, clock out.
Guy inside.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
I don't blame you.
I try to get into it. Like in the past, I've tried to, do all it, but it just doesn't work.
So prior to me getting into real estate and running the brokerages I ran, I got kicked out or I got sent home multiple times from the W-2 job I had because I worked 36-hour shifts with no break. And they were getting fined by the state of North Carolina. And it was because no one wanted to work. So I was like, yeah, I'll take your shift. I'll take your shift. I'll take your shift. Before you know it, I was on one shift, full 36 hours, no break. And he came in guns a-blazing, yelling at me. Yeah, because they're going to get fined big money by the state. Right. But no one wanted to work. Like they were just lazy. And then they'd come in and complain that they have no money. And I'm like, well, you gave me a majority of your shift. You know, and it's that mentality.
That's interesting. I was listening to a podcast. You ever heard of My First Million?
Yes.
The podcast?
Yep,
okay,
yep.
so they're great guys, and I don't know them, but they seem great. And
yeah, you were telling me about it when we were on the phone
yes,
the other week.
And I forgot, they were interviewing somebody who runs like a Chipotle or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
And he said, my problem is not getting my ingredients or whatever it is I need. My problem is finding people who want to work.
Yeah.
And I understand if you're getting paid 10, 15, whatever the minimum wage is per hour, I can understand that. But the problem is the mentality of
100%.
If you walk into those places now, man, it's like they're chopping something and then they look at their phone.
Oh, I
You know what I'm talking about? Like they're chopping something. They literally,
100%.
and your phone has like doo-doo on
Yeah.
it. And you're sitting there like.
It is.
You know, like it's a gross
and they're
thing
not
to
even
do.
acknowledging you.
Exactly.
And if you go to Shake Shack now, Shake Shack has kiosks. And I walked up. I'd
Yeah.
like to order. No, you got to use a kiosk. No, I'd like to order with you. No, you got to use a kiosk. I'm like, what?
Why can't I just tell you what I want?
I know.
Because I'm on my phone.
Like, you're going to make me do it.
Right.
And then it says add a tip. Now, let's not even get started with all these adding tips
bro.
for everything.
Yeah.
But I'm like, add a tip. Am I going to tip myself
Right.
for taking my
I
own
get a
order?
discount? Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
yeah, you know, can I apply it to my bottom line? So one thing I do to caveat that.
Yeah.
And I went through the one big thing, and there's no book on it. One, there's no book on parenting because parenting is very difficult. But there's no book on managing people. Now there's books on it. However, it's so hard to really get a grasp of how to manage people unless you're in there. Why? Everyone has different personalities. Everyone within our organization takes the DISC test and the 5 love language test.
Yeah.
So they all take that, and I share it with everybody. So they know how to communicate amongst each other as well.
Yeah, that's good.
Another thing I have found.
Hold on. The love languages thing is interesting.
Yeah.
Because I've never heard an organization do that. Now, we did that. I read that book with my wife.
Yeah.
We did that whole thing within ourselves. But that's funny that you do it that way because that's how people kind of receive.
Correct. So Sarah, she basically runs us. Like she's phenomenal. Sarah, I love her to death. I had a meeting one-on-one with her, and I said, pick any place you want to go, lunch or dinner. I'll take you there. She says, Jimmy John's. I said, why don't we go to Burton's? Burton's is a real nice restaurant right down the street. She goes, no, Jimmy John's. And I was like, you picked it, whatever you're happy.
Yeah.
I know if I asked that to another one of my employees, because I know how he likes to, like, if it receive information, he would pick Ruth Chris.
Oh, yeah.
100% he'd pick Ruth Chris.
Me too.
Oh, yeah. You know, but she picked Jimmy John's because I know, I knew she was going to pick something like that because that's just her personality. That's who she is as a person.
That's it.
So that's something I love to do. Is everyone share that so they know how to communicate. But one thing I have found in moving forward, it's a number one question I ask all new individuals that come on board to work with us is, have you played sports before? And all of the team members that are currently with QC has played at a D1 or D2 collegiate level.
There you go.
And with all respect, we don't have an HR department, but I will not hire a individual if they don't have a college sports background.
Really? Mm-hmm. You can discriminate on that.
Okay, good. So I'm doing it. I don't think it's in the blurbs in there, so I think I could discriminate on.
Yeah.
But I will not hire anyone moving forward if they don't have a collegiate level sports background. And I have had individuals that have not had it, and in the previous one did not have it, and he's no longer with the company because he got burnt out and his self-motivation dropped. And everyone within the team saw that as well. Because I started getting everyone within the team come to me and say, hey, what's going on with so-and-so? Is he all there? But right now, if you look at our organization, everyone has D1 or D2 sports background. And they are hungry.
That's funny.
They are like cheetahs that are starving.
Yeah.
That's how they are.
I remember back to when I was doing recruiting and all that at Carolina.
Yeah.
If you played a sport, doesn't matter what it was. You could be on the rowing team or whatever. It doesn't matter. You would get a job. For the most part, unless you just didn't want one.
Correct.
But like that's
very rare. What sports athlete doesn't want a job?
Most of them want a job
because they're they're mentally wired to compete. Mm-hmm. If you are a D1 athlete, and I ran Division I track as a sprinter, if you are a D1 athlete, you are wired to compete at all costs. You don't care.
Yeah.
Anything it is, you will compete, and that's how the team is now. And why do I like that? Is because I'll get emails from them on Saturday and Sunday. I'll get emails at 11 o'clock at night on a Friday night. They're not out partying. They're hungry. They're cheetahs that are starving, ready to go get that next prey.
How do you guys have it set up? Do you have acquisitions people?
Yep.
You're looking for car washes, right? That's what you focus on.
So our main focus right now is car washes. We're not even looking at multifamily. Just like what we talked about, you saw how self-storage kind of very similar relates to multifamily. Right now is not a good time to buy, in my opinion. I think there's still being a very large disconnect between buyers and sellers, and it's going to be that way for quite a while until we start to see rates dropping. But the biggest caveat is we need to see price increases. Now, I noticed with Marcus and Millitrap, they said that we're slowly starting to see the rent increase, which is great. However, I think people definitely need to look that, just in Charlotte, there's over 15,000 units coming online just this year. So I think there's a lot of supply still coming on the market. So even though we've had a good quarter of a price increase with rent, overall, I think it's not going to increase, especially what you saw or, used to. And so we're not even looking at multifamily, nor will we even look at it. We are fully 100% focused on car washes, and we have a main focus on that Florida market. We have a COO who has over a decade of experience just in the car wash industry, and he brought one of the top 5 car washes in the United States from 5 to 75 locations.
Yeah.
So wealth of knowledge. And so when it comes to the hiring side with the car washes, the COO oversees all that, and he looks very deep into that. But with the investment side, we have a head of acquisitions. He also underwrites. He has 7 to 8 years at Capital One in Arbor, so he comes from the debt side, very conservative, which I love. Because he's more conservative, and then I come in with, okay, we got to take risk here.
Yeah.
We got to take risk here. So it makes that fine balance perfect.
Yeah.
And then we have a head asset manager, and she's basically operations, Sarah. Then we have our CMO, Stephanie, and then Keith, our COO. And then myself, who's now overseeing all of the investor relations, which we're actively bringing on an investor relations individual to director of investor relations to solely focus on that.
Yeah.
The lovely part about private equity, and I know you can speak for this, is that you don't need 20, 30, 40 people in a private equity shop. I'm talking to a group tomorrow. They're a publicly traded private equity company who's actually looking to come into our car washes. They only have 9 people.
Oh, wow.
They brought Burger FI public.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They brought they own in Burger FI and then a lot of other different chains as well.
Yeah.
But they only have like 9 people.
Yeah.
Like Warren Buffett only has 12 to 15.
Yeah.
Like, so the lovely part about private equity is that scalability. If you have a great quality core foundation of individuals, like my D1, D2 athletes here, you're able to grow a large organization.
You don't need.
No, because what's going to happen is that in good times, and I saw this in the brokerage space, in good times, you're going to have these groups, and I'm sure you've seen it, that are skyrocketing with acquisitions, and they're bringing on, 5 people per quarter, just hiring. And then when they have just a rough patch, which we're going through right now, they're letting go. Letting go. So now they're backtracking, they're letting go. And what happens? That creates question amongst your already organization that you have, on, where are we as a company now?
It creates uncertainty.
Am I going to get let go? Like, where are we as a whole company? And then investors, because again, you and I are always raising capital. Investors start to question, well, I saw so-and-so and now he's not there. Are you guys okay? Like, is my capital okay with you guys?
Yeah.
That starts a question. So it's a domino effect. So I was always the type to hire slow, but very key individuals. Now, there's sometimes, and this is one thing I hate, is college, they have classes on how to interview. They don't have classes on how to work hard and keep your job. They have classes on how to just get your job.
Yeah.
And so people will come and interview amazing. Like, you will talk to them and you're like, yes, this is the one. I want him or her. But then they get into the position with the stress, the pressure, the long hours. They're like, oh, no, they can't handle it.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why I hire athletes, because athletes, the pressure, the stress. When you're a student athlete at a D1 college, when I was in college at a D1 in Winthrop, I had 3 or 4 hours of workouts, both out on the track and in the gym. On top of that, I had a mandatory 2 hours per day of study hall. Plus, then I had my classes. Before you know it, all I had to do was eat and sleep.
That's it.
No.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, seriously.
So that time management also too, with that aspect of it, helps tremendously when you're managing them.
Yeah.
But we're very lean, and it helps us because we can pivot very quickly. It doesn't have to run up a food chain to get approved by anything like that. You know, it's very good.
I like that. That makes a ton of sense.
100%.
Yeah, especially when you said the time management. When my kids go to college, if they go to college, but hopefully they do, then I want them to have a job, some sort of part-time thing. It can't just be like screwing around doing stupid stuff or whatever. It makes you unless you play a sport or whatever, but
Correct.
it makes you like focus and manage your time well. Fitting things in that are important, et cetera, cutting things out that are not important. So that's cool. You guys have so it's a very lean organization. Are you planning on doing anything else or just sticking with car wash for now?
Right now, we see a huge opportunity in these car washes. A lot of our competitors bought, anywhere from 6 to 10 million about 8 months to 14 months ago. And even the public companies that are in there bought around that price. And so we're able to buy these car washes for about 2.5 to 5 mil.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're producing same gross that they're producing.
Wow.
So we're buying them substantially cheaper. And so what we're doing is heavy focus on acquisitions of car washes only. Better tax benefits, higher cash flow.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just got a multifamily deal yesterday in my inbox, and I love seeing these deals. Now they're offering 8 to 9% pref. So I'm like, okay, let me go see their year one cash flow, 2%. I'm like, that's risky.
Yeah.
2%.
Oh yeah, very much so.
Like, why would I ask you, hey, would you like to invest in this deal? One, I always invest in all my deals with our investors to show that interest of alignment. But if I'm not investing in it, why would I ask you? I'm not going to.
Yeah.
But if I was going to invest in it, why would I? My rebuttal is, okay, I'm going to ask you to invest. You're going to say, Chris, it's 2% year one. I can go put my money in a money market account.
Sell.
Now, don't get me wrong. A money market account, you're going to have to pay tax on it.
Yeah.
You don't have that appreciation. I understand all that. However, the issue is it's 2%. Given the current market environment of multifamily and the uncertainty amongst multiple investors and all the news publicity showing how many times people lost money, investors are weary about that.
Yeah.
And they have that bug in their stomach that's like, hey, I don't know if I want to do it.
Well, it's tough right now too because there's uncertainty around rates. We were all expecting rates to come down. Now we don't know.
They're
where
not coming down this year.
Yeah, we don't know.
I don't think they'll come down this year.
I don't think so either.
No, because of how high inflation has been the first half of this year, and then with this presidential election coming up, the rates aren't coming down this year. I think we'll see it probably in Q1 of next year. Hopefully, if this inflation comes down. I mean, with it, look, and I'm sure you're on the same boat as me. Going to the grocery store, you're not looking at every single cost. But when I pick up, pineapples, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, and mangoes, which I just did about a month ago, and it's $64, I'm scratching my head like, is it really worth it? Like now it's just like the principle. Like I feel like I'm getting screwed over just buying these 6 items or 5 items. Like I feel like I'm getting screwed over now.
No kidding.
Yeah.
We got a Costco membership.
I'm actually thinking about getting one.
Okay.
I love it.
It depends on which
I have a Sam's Club membership.
Me too.
So, okay.
We do too. So where we live, Sam's is close.
Okay.
10 minutes away or whatever. Costco's like 30 minutes away. So we have to go to Costco maybe once every other week. It's not really worth the drive and the time and all that, unless I'm in the area. But yeah, man, we can get like oat milk, for example. You get like a thing of 4.
Yeah.
So it averages out to like $4 a carton. You get that at like Harris Teeter or the other store, grocery store. It's like $6 or
it's
whatever
ridiculous.
it is. So we don't save like hundreds of dollars every week, but we have definitely seen a savings by doing that. Buying your meat at Costco. I have a Blackstone thing.
I heard the meat is phenomenal there.
It's awesome, dude.
Like,
and then the chickens, the rotisserie chickens, and then
Dirt
the hot
cheap.
dog. If you ever want a hot dog, the kids will get them sometimes. It's $1.50 for a hot dog and a soda. They'll never raise the price on that.
Yeah.
So I heard the business model of Costco is memberships. That's how they drive their revenue.
Yeah, it's
profits.
reoccurring.
It's not really the stuff. Yeah,
100%.
So I think it's worth
The
it.
Costco CEO, before he retired, the previous one, he went to every single store every single year. That's why the quality and consistency of Costco is phenomenal.
You got to do that.
You have to. You have to. It's that consistency of visiting it unexpectedly, making sure you're holding everyone accountable. One thing we do with our car washes is, if you go into a restaurant, you have a food rating. Yeah. And if there's a C, you're probably not going to eat
you see the thing up on the wall.
If it's a C, you're going to scratch your head.
If it's a B, if it's a low A, I'm like,
if it's a low A, it's like, what'd you guys do? Unless you're in Chinatown in New York, right? Then they got the chickens hanging in
whatever.
Let's hope not. We don't get sick.
Right.
One thing we're doing internally is that each store will have its own rating.
Yeah.
And after every quarter, we give an additional bonus to our on-site managers based off of their rating.
Nice.
And that's an internal secret shop that we're doing.
Okay.
So I'll go there, our COO will go there, and then as we scale more units, we'll have an internal person that their sole job is to secret shop each location that we have on a quarterly basis. And internally, we'll get a rating based off of our criteria, making sure the grounds are clean, making sure everyone's presentable, clean, all that.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to do that, to give that level of customer service. Why? Because there's no level of customer service anymore.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to computers.
Yeah.
So how are you going to win against your competition if you have a level of customer service?
Yeah.
If you create that Ritz-Carlton feel compared to that, Holiday Inn Express
Exactly.
feel. And so that's what we're pushing heavily with our car washes.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
I need to do that more. I do that. We both go every quarter and visit all the stores.
And let's talk about that, because you guys bought recently an RV park.
No, it's an RV facility.
Or RV,
not a park.
storage facility. So an RV storage facility. So those individuals that want to store their RV not on their property, things like that, because that's hot. I mean, I know, especially during COVID, everyone was itching. They're like, okay, an RV sales, skyrocketed because everyone hopped into an RV to travel the world.
Yeah.
How is that? I know a lot of people like to store their RV in a closed facility, and also, boats and things like that. So
absolutely.
how's that doing?
It's interesting, man. So during the pandemic, we had a surge. If you remember back, if anybody remembers back then, like sporting goods stores were out of equipment, not able to have find dumbbells and all that kind of stuff. So RV sales went through the roof during that time. I forgot what the increase was, like 20, 30, 40% increase. I can't remember year over year. It was huge. So that was a good anomaly, I guess you'd say. It tapered off a little bit after that, and then it's picked up here again recently. Yeah. So it's great. So the one we own is in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Okay.
And Indiana is the RV capital of the world. They make the most RVs in Indiana.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So California, I think, sells the most, which makes sense. But Indiana manufactures the most.
All the hippies smoking weed, traveling.
I don't know what they're doing out there, man. They're doing some weird stuff.
So they sell the most, California, but Indiana produces the most.
Yeah.
Wow, manufactures it.
Yeah,
wow.
It's interesting. So we have our locations there in Indianapolis.
Smart.
It's I forgot. I always get the numbers mixed up. Call it 80,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So they're big bays. So they're like 15 or 14 foot by 50 foot bays, and then some of them are back to back. So you get 100-foot run in there, and some people will lease the entire 100 feet.
Put the boat,
they'll put their RV, their
other
boat,
stuff,
all their crap in there, whatever they need during the year. And then we do have some food trucks that rent from us. Some
that's
other
cool.
businesses that rent from us.
Yeah, they just store their food trucks there.
Some guys that have some fancy cars, they want to put them in there.
Yeah.
It's totally fine because it's all enclosed. So the roll-up door is a 16-foot giant roll-up door.
So everything's enclosed.
Yeah, everything's enclosed. It's Bluetooth activated, so you pull up like a garage door opener. You pull up and it opens up for you. You pull in. The drive aisles are about roughly 75 to 100 feet drive aisles.
Okay,
so very wide. You be able to maneuver in there and all that. So secure, fenced, all that stuff.
Wow.
So it's great. If you went and saw it, it'd be like, there isn't a whole lot going on here. But if I took you in and rolled up the doors,
you'd be like, wow.
You would see, oh, okay, there's like $500,000, $1 million RVs parked in this
place. Do you
place.
think that type of concept is very popular and is going to grow?
Yeah, 100%.
Because it's not just RVs. You can put your boats. You can put cars. They're huge.
Whatever. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
People have a lot of stuff these days.
Exactly. So they're not all going to want that Class A plus kind of storage, but some discerning buyers owners will want that kind of a space. But RV sales, just in general, if you could find a lot somewhere, fence it and get it entitled to be able to put maybe just a cover. You don't have to have the whole building, but just like a little covered canopy kind of style.
Oh yeah,
you can fill that up pretty quickly.
I mean, because really, you're finding that lot. Put it barbed wire fence around. And then you have concrete pads, steel poles for the foundation of the roof. Yep. Metal on the outside. Put some garage doors. It's fairly I would say it's cheaper than brick.
It's not rocket science. Yeah, it's easy to do.
Which one of those lease out for?
We rent them for roughly $500 a space. something like that.
The whole space or half of it?
Half
of it. That's so about $1,000, give or take. Obviously,
like
different, pricing, but about $1,000 for one hole. That's not bad.
No,
you can fit a lot
all
through all that.
The other part of it too is if you look at it on a square foot basis, like in storage, and even in multifamily, it depends on where you go. Let's just say you're renting for $1 per foot, maybe $1.50 or $2 per foot. Storage maybe $1 per foot, so $100 for a 10 by 10, 100 square feet, $1 per foot. So okay, great. On the parking side, you'll get less than that, maybe 50 cents a foot, 75 cents a foot if you're lucky. That's kind of what we get. 30 cents a foot probably is more realistic depending on where it is.
Yeah.
The flip of that is like, okay, well, I don't get much money that comes in the door, but I don't got to manage much.
Correct.
It's just parking.
Yeah, I mean, there.
Right. It's like there's not people moving in and out.
Yeah.
There's not like.
And occasionally you're gonna have the people that can't drive and accidentally run into something.
But
but that's why you have insurance and make sure they have insurance.
But their liability covers it.
Yeah. That's
so
important.
we don't have to have that. We have it, but we
you
don't
want
have
that claim.
Coverage. Yeah, exactly.
You don't want that claim on yours. So make sure in their lease agreement, that they have to have that and they have to keep it steady at all times, or not. They're still liable for it.
Exactly.
But yeah. I mean, it's just basically just like parking garages. I mean, we've seen them in Charlotte. Parking's been crazy in Charlotte.
Yes.
I mean, $20 for an hour.
Yes.
Like it's wild.
Yeah.
So it's just basically parking overnight.
It's parking for these nice fancy toys or whatever that people have. We have 2 lakes here, so I'm trying to find a location in Charlotte.
Oh, that'd be
problem
perfect.
Is your basis, the land basis,
it's so expensive.
Is the problem.
And that's what we figured out with car washes when we looked at development. We're like, it doesn't make sense. Like we just can't develop like that basis plus it's going to cost you with a new UDO, anywhere from 12 to 18 months out. Like it just doesn't make sense.
It's hard, man. We're just doing an expansion at one of our facilities that should C of O in June of this year.
Congrats.
Hopefully. Thank you.
Knock on wood.
It's been
we all know how the government is.
Yeah, it's been ridiculous because the land, I already had a storage facility there. It's already zoned industrial. It took us 2 years to get our building permit.
Are you kidding me?
No.
2 years?
Yeah.
2 years.
So stupid. Yeah.
What were they doing?
Yeah, just taking forever. Part of it, I'm not blaming the entire thing on the municipality. It is what it is. But it still took us
most of it
2 years.
Them.
It should take,
come on, like,
couple 6 weeks, hopefully.
Like a couple months.
Charlotte is not like that. It's really difficult. It was already zoned. We had to go through. It had a overlay on it. So like I don't want to get too technical. The point is there was something we had to jump over, hurdle we have to jump over.
You always have to
get it done. Yeah. But if it's zoned, meaning that the city and the county have said, or whoever the municipality is, they said, hey, you can do this here. So let's say it's office.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and build office on this 3-acre piece of land. Great. Here's my plan for the office building. I should be able to get a permit pretty quickly.
You'd think.
After you get through the approval process or whatever with the building and code and all that stuff. But just because it's zoned doesn't mean it's going to go fast.
Correct.
It has taken forever. We had that problem at another place in Gastonia. We actually had good luck in Denver, Colorado on an expansion. That was good. Indianapolis has also been very good for us.
Good.
So just Charlotte
and it's
here
not
is
like it's not like you're building, a complex with office space with 2-story bathrooms,
Exactly.
Then you're gonna have to have handicap, all that.
Exactly.
It's like you're just building a metal box.
Yeah.
Essentially a concrete foundation, steel poles, metal outside, a garage door, electricity ran to it, and that's it.
That's it. It's very simple. But the process to get that approved
is a headache.
Sometimes be a nightmare.
Yeah, and sometimes, if you're not budgeting for that properly too, it can kill it.
Yeah. Yeah, we had price increases, not at Indianapolis, but the ones here, we had a couple price increases because it was when the metal pricing was going nuts after COVID.
Yeah. How'd you guys handle that?
You just don't get paid fees.
Yeah.
You just don't get paid development fees. And then the GC has to come out of pocket a little bit. So they do a bid and they say, okay, the budget's going to be X. And then the metal price goes up or whatever it is. Cost of labor goes up and now it's X plus 1 or X plus some number.
To a certain percentage.
Well, we got to figure that out.
Correct.
Will the lender help us on some of that? Probably not. So it has to come out of the equity.
Yeah.
And then we have to go back to the GC and say, hey, you said this.
XYZ. Yeah.
You got to cover it.
Correct.
Somehow.
Yeah, you have to cover the difference.
I don't know where we're at. Yeah. So we had to have those conversations a couple of times.
Tough conversations to have.
Yeah, but it's not fun.
You need to have them. That's the business we're in.
The thing is not, they know too. So it's not like a surprise from us.
Yeah, because that's not the only conversation they're having. they're having it with multiple people. I'm sure.
Exactly. Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's just a level of the business and the nature of the business that we're all in.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. I love it. Chris, wealth of knowledge. I really enjoy you coming on. I'm excited to have you come on in the near future as well. But I just want to appreciate our friendship and you coming on and giving us a tremendous amount of knowledge, not just in real estate, but family life and what you do for your family and everything.
Absolutely,
I
man.
appreciate you.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it, man.
Most definitely.
Had a good time.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you for tuning in to the Chris Salerno Show. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and gained valuable insight to help you along your journey. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. If you have any questions or topics that you would like to cover, feel free to reach out directly to me. Shoot me a message on Instagram at Chris_Salerno_. Until next time, keep pushing forward and stay inspired.